I've thought of making videos for a while in which I just chat and talk about what's been on my mind based on the things I've been researching, looking into current events, and stepping away from the conspiracy theory mindset as I am skeptical to everything. Um, if they tell you it's good for you, it's probably not. If they say they're helping the planet, they most likely are not. And if they say they're not helping the planet, then those people also have an agenda for what they're saying. Um, well, who am I? I like to knit and I like to read and research about history, local history, companies, economy, um, current events, science, military history, politics, occultism, spiritual texts, spiritual writings, um, myths, mythology, psychology, whatever you name it, I've probably read a book on it. I like to read, I like to knit, I like to spin yarn, and I grew up not too far away from Disneyland. Now, if you grew up near Disneyland, you end up having a love-hate relationship with it. Either you love it or you hate it. And I fall into the hate it camp. Why? I don't hate their classic animated films. I see that as art, and as an artist, I can appreciate art. However, I do hate what the business does. Especially because I've seen what it does to the community I grew up in, literally 5 minutes away from Disneyland. I saw the fireworks every night. Family trips to Disney were common because it was affordable. We didn't buy anything. We brought in our own sandwiches. And usually someone could get us in for free. But the abject poverty around it is inexcusable. It is common for apartments to get set on fire from the debris of falling fireworks. And basically, Disney gets a lot of tax write-offs from the city of Anaheim. They own the city of Anaheim. They run the city council. The police works for them. I've seen it firsthand. And it's absolutely disgusting. Yeah, they do public service projects, but that's all just to save face and placate critics like me. And I see through that. And I'm not placated with putting a little Mickey Mouse themed playground in every park in Anaheim. Like, no. You need to do more. So I've always been critical of Disneyland because I've seen the community around it. I've seen the impact of it in people's lives that I know. In general, it's just not a good company, ethically. What company is, right? At least big ones. So I had the idea to look up Disney recently. I don't know why. I was just curious. Last time I was there was like 2017, and it seems they changed a lot. You need to pay, basically, to reserve your assigned seat at an assigned time and place for a specific ride. Back in the day, you just showed up and waited in line, or maybe fast pass if you were lucky enough to get one. I also learned another thing. A lot of the rides now are automated. They don't have a track. I thought this was very interesting because Disney is not what it seems, and there's many videos going on about, Hollywood propaganda, the magic in the media, north, east, west, south, that's the news, spells and broadcasting, television, broadcasting, spellcasting, etc. But, excuse me, there's something more practical and more real about this. Back in World War II, a lot of quote-unquote actors actually were in the military. A lot of entertainers were military. A lot of movies was military. Movies and films, photography, all had military applications. All technology has had military applications. Um, the first photographs were of the Civil War, you know, of the battlefields, and those were posed. A lot of those pictures were actually posed. You kind of had to make a scene, but then that goes back to theater, a scene. It's written, it's not real. And I'm not saying the Civil War didn't happen, etc. I'm not saying anything did not happen. I'm saying these things did happen, but they were staged so you could have something to film. I always wondered, how is it that a camera happened to be right there when the Hindenburg exploded, for example, or how is it that someone knew to film when something randomly happened and, you know what I'm talking about. Like someone is filming and then they capture a car crash, or they capture someone being shot, or they capture something that you're probably going to see on the news or on a compilation of videos or something like that. Or major events too. I learned in one class that the footage of the quote unquote of the war in Cuba with America, or the Americans with Theodore Roosevelt, that was staged. That was all filmed after the fact, after the battles. Iwo Jima, that picture was taken after. A lot of these pictures that we think are like, oh my god, this is what happened, they were all staged. You see what I'm saying? Like, television and the news, not the news, but the way the news is presented, the media, that is a relatively new invention, the screens and all that. So there's really nothing to broadcast, so you have to create shit to broadcast. You know what I mean? You have to create news, so there's news. And technology has always been applied with the military. And then it's given to the rest of us civilians as a novelty or as something we can use. For example, cars. Cars and automobiles, heavy machinery, that was all used for industry and for mechanisms of war. Then it got turned into automobiles that the consumer can enjoy. See where I'm getting with this? So let's go to Disney and the trackless systems. I thought, hey, okay, they're trackless. What requires for something to move on its own? Some sort of awareness, spatial awareness. So my mind went to chaos theory and quantum computing, because I do know that the quantum computers allow for infinitely more possibilities than the binary system that we're currently running on. So I thought maybe there had to be something, it had something to do with quantum computing and AI, but I was giving Disney far too much credit. Disneyland actually itself started as a World's Fair. At least that was the idea Walt had, he wanted to showcase technology. He wanted it to always be innovative and showcasing technology. Except that as we moved away from the turn of the century and the mid-century, where World's Fairs were no longer, let's say, relevant to the newer generations, that showcasing of technology had to change. And when Disney initially opened his park, he had this house called it was like this plastic house of innovation, and or the House of Tomorrow, something like that. And each major appliance or military industrial complex related company had an exhibit. And same thing with Knott's Berry Farm. Edison had their own little exhibit there in Disney. And Knott's as well. But so did Disney. And obviously Edison is a local Southern California electric provider. But it did have like GE there. I believe It's a Small World was sponsored by GE. Something like that. So you know what I mean? Monsanto, the plastics company, like all of these major companies have shaped DuPont, all, you know what, we see where I'm getting at? DuPont, Monsanto, Bayer, all of these companies that have benefited and used people to test their products and weapons of war, like as in World War I and World War II, in which everyone profited except the very victims who died. Um, you see where I'm getting at? Like, after World War II and after the Korean War, and especially after Vietnam, it was like, okay, we can't showcase our weapons of war like this. So, and then the world started turning away from the World's Fair exhibitions and all that. So what? Oh, how else are you gonna display the newest technology in a consumable entertainment system? Apply it to the rides. Don't even tell people it's new tech. Just throw it in their face and disguise it as entertainment. So these trackless rides, I'm like, okay, they're not using quantum computers. They're not using what I thought they were using. So what are the systems for these trackless rides? And it's basically a local positioning system, radar, sonar, and something called LiDAR. I was not aware of what LiDAR was, so I look it up, and it's basically light detecting. It detects the differences in light, and that's how something is able to move, in addition to the sonar and other stuff as well. LiDAR is also used in iPhones, the newer iPhones, to take pictures in low light situations, etc., etc. And my question is, why are they presenting all of this tech as entertainment? Very high tech. Um, because all of these have obvious military applications, you know what I mean? So why are you giving these military applications to the hands of people? Same thing with drones. Drones are used to kill people while you're sitting somewhere in Atlanta, Georgia, and you send a fucking drone off to the Middle East, and you kill a family or whatever, a child, a mom, someone you've never met, never will ever meet. And but here we are, people flying drones everywhere to get their footage of weddings so they could post it on Instagram. Like, what the fuck? No. Drones were initially for military, and now we just have them as a toy. You see where I'm getting at? So, what is the military purpose behind these automated vehicles that are being presented as innovative rides? Because it's not a ride that they're selling you. That's just a toy. That's just a gimmick to get you to accept the technology and its further applications. And I'm going to tie this into the reservation system as well. I'm getting there. So with the reservation system, before that, Disney crowds were to an extent random. Not 100% random, but pretty random. Now with this reservation system, you're going to have a specific group of people at a specific time, at a specific place, on a specific date. So that means in one train, he will have a whole bunch of friends who were able to reserve the same ride at the same time, place, date, everything. So that ride, for example, will be full of 100 people of your high school class that you decided to go to Disneyland as a reunion. I don't know. I'm just trying to come up with specific demographics that are no longer random, but actually placed intentionally in the little ride thingy. So let's apply it outside of Disneyland. Let's apply automated technology outside of Disneyland. How about instead of public transportation, such as light rails and buses that require a conductor, make those without a driver. Make those automated. Self-driving train, self-driving bus. Alright, seems innocent enough. Now, apply the reservation system on public transportation. This is where it gets interesting. Because who rides public transportation? Certainly not the people that At least depending where you live, public transportation is kind of looked down upon, especially in LA, especially in Southern California. It's like, why don't you drive? So, unlike in New York or San Francisco, where it's like, why do you drive? But what I'm getting at is, say everyone reserves a bus system, a bus, right? Like for tomorrow at 11:30, and everyone who reserves this bus already has like a social credit score. Okay. And because you already kind of don't drive, you already ride the bus, maybe you ride it for economic reasons, maybe you ride it for the environment, whatever reason, say these ideas are not okay, or you have a social credit score that's already tagged you as, you know, um, someone who maybe might not be desirable to have in a society, and then you fill up a whole bus with people who would not be desirable in a society, an automated bus without a conductor, and this bus has an accident in which everyone just kind of accidentally dies. Um, I get where I'm going with this. There's another thing I thought about automated delivery systems, or automated systems, is delivery systems to space. Because LiDAR is used to take pictures of the Earth's surface. It's actually used in aerospace industries. So combine that with automation, combine that with space colonization, combine that with um, asteroid mining, you're gonna need to be delivering supplies to people. It's gonna cost too much money to have someone conducting a train of supplies to the moon or Mars or wherever the fuck people think we're gonna colonize. Um, so yeah, you're just gonna make automated delivery systems to the colonies without a conductor. You just like type in the coordinates and boom, there it goes, which is pretty neat. But I personally don't know how to feel about space colonization. I feel like we've already done it. Everything just goes back in cycles anyway. I personally don't look forward to space colonization. I probably wouldn't sign up for it. And I will have a very different idea of what space even is, which is not an idea you'll encounter among many, many people. But I honestly believe it's just kind of like gelatinous liquid, and we're inside a body of a very, 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 very large body thing. Um, and that's basically, yeah. But that's for another discussion, I guess. Um, where do I get all this information from? I research a lot. I kind of grew up in a different type of household, at least with ideas. My dad was very much into the New Age. He's very much a skeptic about the New Age as well. He's a skeptic about many things. He taught me to research and question. My mom is also very spiritual, very open. Both of them taught me to trust myself, to trust my intuition. And I've always kind of been able to see things. I've tested this in many, many ways. I've done everything I can to quote unquote get rid of it, but it continues. It's still there. Some people call it remote viewing, some people call it being psychic. I don't like putting labels on stuff, but that's where I get a lot of my information. I see stuff, I research it, and usually it ends up being true, or it ends up being true in the future. Like, such as now. A lot of stuff I've been dreaming about when I was 18, 20, it's happening now. So, I'm not saying I'm always correct. I just see things, I research it, and look into it. As for knitting portion of this video, I guess, I've been knitting this hand spun sweater. I spun it, all the yarn on a drop spindle. The yarn is 2-ply merino. I did hand blend it for the gradients. The pattern is my own. It combines motifs of roses and raven feathers, and nature stuff. I'm hoping to finish it before Christmas. We'll see about that. And thanks for watching if you made it this far. And yeah, thanks.